Welcome back for episode 6 of the Fishbowl Hockey Podcast. We've been on a hiatus since the Four Nations, but we've got most of the gang back together for another roundtable edition to preview the NHL playoffs, including our Stanley Cup predictions. Guys, this first round is going to be fun. It always is. There's some serious potential for chaos with this year's matchups. I know everyone loves chaos and upsets, so I can't wait to get into it, but to start, Marshall Porteous was going to join us again following his impressive debut, and despite his Flames missing the playoffs, but unfortunately he had to bow out due to technical difficulties. So it's just me, Larry Fisher, as your host, along with regular guests Dan Nadeau and Matthew Fiacco. Dan is coming off a championship win of his own as coach of the U14 Titans in the JPHL, which you can see Dan's repping them, repping the boys today. So maybe Dan, just some thoughts on your background there and the ride you guys had to a championship.
Yeah, we came into the playoffs kind of as the two seed in the, I guess, Alberta division. Um, and we had a tough, kind of two tough series. Like Lloydminster was a really tough team. We were kind of on our A game there and swept them. And then we had to play the Beast from the East, as I call them, out of Moose Jaw, the South Sask Hockey Club. And they were 29-1 on the year. We hadn't beaten them all year. The only other team to beat them was Langley, and that's who we ended up playing in the finals. And could be prouder of the kids. I mean, they stuck to the game plan. They executed everything we asked as coaches, and we actually went undefeated in the playoffs, sweeping all three series and going 6-0. So yeah, we capped it off by beating Langley about a month ago now, actually, out in the Silent Ice Center in Nisku. If you're ever in Nisku, I suggest you check out that gem of an arena. It's probably the nicest rink in Western Canada right now. That's not a pro NHL rink. So
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about that new rink, and congratulations on the success this season. I know last year you had the same age group, same league, and maybe didn't get off to the best start and had some ups and downs, and that to have the turnaround you did this year to go from where you finished last season to being the league champs. That's an incredible run, and great to see you having the success behind the bench as a head coach at that level, and obviously still seeing you keeping busy in hockey, and Maddie's here as well. Maddie's also fresh off of a big road trip. Maddie, you were on the adventures through Vegas and Los Angeles and Anaheim. I know. I believe you were even on TV during the national anthems when the Oilers were in Anaheim, but you got to follow them on that road trip. So if there was any doubt, we know that Maddie's still the most famous member of our round table, but Maddie, maybe just give me some highlights from your trip because I know that was a pretty awesome experience.
Yeah, it was the most amazing experience I've ever had. The Vegas like arena and the whole outside is just electric. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's I've been to a game in Vegas and it is a wild atmosphere. It's definitely the NHL in Vegas, or as you would expect. Vegas does everything pretty big and loud, and they definitely do with the Golden Knights there. What about obviously you had Anaheim, you had LA. I think you even made it out to Palm Springs, you were saying?
Yeah. So we left Saturday morning, drove down to LA at like 7 a.m. and then we got to LA around 11. Went to have lunch. LA's got the same setup as Vegas does, like with a whole bunch of bars
Mhm.
around the arena. They got music, beer gardens, like the vibe
Yeah, it's
is
a cool spot. LA Live. Yeah, I was there. I covered the 2017 NHL All-Star game in Los Angeles, and that was when LA Live was pretty new. It was before Edmonton had the Ice District. So yeah, a lot of the cities are putting in that sort of outdoor entertainment district around the rink, and LA's got a good one. And then obviously you closed it out in Anaheim, and that's where you ended up on TV.
yeah. We got like after the national anthem, we got like a whole bunch of texts from our friends and family in Edmonton and even in Kelowna that saw us. They were taking pictures and sending us texts.
That's
But
awesome. Yeah, no, that's wicked, bud. And I know you even got your spins in on the trip. I heard you made it to a country bar in Vegas too. So it was an all around success for you. And now I guess all three of us are on the Oilers bandwagon, so we may as well start there. We're talking about Los Angeles and LA live. The Oilers will be there on Monday and Wednesday. That series starts in Los Angeles. Familiar foes. Edmonton set to face Los Angeles in the first round for the fourth straight year. Oilers previously defeating the Kings in 7 in 2022, in 6 in 2023, and last year in 5 games in 2024. So, Maddie, are we counting this down to a sweep? Is it a 4-game sweep this year, or is LA? Is this the year that LA maybe pushes back and knocks off the Oilers?
Yeah, if we can stay out of the box and Skinner plays like he usually plays, like I think we can go pretty far. And then like on the other side, we gotta take it to them 5-on-5. Get in, hammer, get in, dump the puck in, smash Doughty, smash Gabbard, make him pay for going through the.
Yeah, I'm expecting it to be a physical series for sure. And I know Marshall's not here, so we didn't get his prediction on this series, but he's actually told me, I mean, obviously a moment of silence for the Flames and Canucks fans that are watching. For your teams not making the playoffs, 5 Canadian teams are in, and Marshall is staying on a Canadian team bandwagon. He's jumping on the Jets, so he's cheering for Winnipeg. But Dan, obviously, you'll be following that Oilers series extremely close. Do you think the Oilers' dominance continues, or like I said, is this the year that the Kings maybe put up their biggest fight to date after losing 3 straight years to the Oilers in the first round?
I don't know if we can use the word dominance this go round in this series. I think if everybody was healthy and the Oilers had that time to kind of click through the regular season. I mean, they had so many guys out with injury, right? So we're inserting Kane and Frederick and guys that really haven't been like they've been in the room, but they haven't been on the ice with these guys into this series. I think this one goes the distance. I think it goes 7. The X factor is going to be, does Skinner play well in elimination games? Like he's typically very good in elimination games. The problem with him is that, we usually get behind the 8 ball before he tightens up in that crease, right? So he needs to be, he needs to not be game 1, game 2 Skinner. He needs to be game 5, 6, 7 Skinner for this whole series to give them a chance, especially missing a guy like Ekholm who, for all intents and purposes was probably going to play 30 minutes a night against LA in the playoffs. So those are minutes that I don't see them being able to fill easily. It's going to be done by a committee, and we hope they're up for it. I'll give the nod, though, on the offensive side of the puck to a healthy Oilers team. So we're hoping that those guys that were out, it was rest and maintenance, and that there's no nagging, kind of lingering injuries or illnesses that are going to slow down the McDavids and the Draisaitl's. Otherwise, that game 7 might not go the way the three of us want it to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a longer series as well. We'll save our predictions for the end of this little segment, but definitely I think, like you said, are they banged up or are they rested up? And McDavid was sort of adamant, or even you could say more animated than usual, dismissing the notion that Edmonton is the walking wounded, saying they'll be ready to go. But the injuries are hard to ignore this year. And Maddie, what do you make of that with so many guys? I know Matthias Ekholm's out for the first round, but you run down the list of guys that haven't played down the stretch here, and you question the chemistry with guys like McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, Jake Wallman, who's new since the trade deadline, missed some games. Evander Kane obviously hasn't played all season. Sounds like he could be an option even as early as game 1. Trent Frederick, he's only played a period or 2 of Oilers hockey as another deadline addition who is coming off a high ankle sprain and re-injured it. Well, in front of you, Maddie, that was in LA when you were at that game. But John Klingberg's kind of he's back now, but he's sort of another bubble guy who's been in and out of the lineup. But what do you make of all the injuries, Maddie? And I guess the biggest thing, the Oilers are underdogs by seeding, but I believe they're still the betting favorite. But with all the question marks about injuries, is this a good time, Maddie, to be cooking up some parlays in favor of Edmonton?
Like, if you maybe do you switch Bouchard and Klingberg around and put Klingberg on the power play with Like he can snap the puck around too. Um, I think these boys are not ready to give up yet. They still have a lot of work to do. I mean, look, I mean, like, of course, won the season series, but it's playoff time. You rip the paper, you rip the season series up, and you throw it out the window and go bye bye. Anything can happen.
For sure, and Dan, we know there is some animosity in this rivalry heading into the playoffs. Obviously, the little I think it was pretty overblown, the Darnell Nurse Quentin Byfield thing, but maybe some carryover there. Obviously, Phil Deneau and Corey Perry had a little bit of a war of words about Edmonton dressing the B team or the B squad and trying to injure the Kings, but that felt like a bit of a tone setter down the stretch here. What are you expecting? Is this going to be a rough series or a battle of power plays?
It's the fourth time meeting. They hate each other. Let's call a spade a spade. I think if you're a fan of either team, this isn't the matchup you wanted in round one, because whoever gets out, you're not exactly staring down an easy round two. and
The Golden Knights are
this is a war. This is gonna be a war. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a war of attrition. I think a lot of these first round series are going to be longer series with a lot of hard fought battles throughout. Could come down to goaltending. We touched on it.
I just look at this one though, out of any of the other first round series, that there's probably more of a hatred factor going on, right? Like outside of if you could have got a Calgary Edmonton series, like there's. This one probably has, I guess Toronto, Ottawa, we'll get to that one later. But this one, because of the history of the last 4 years, things like that, this one probably has the makings of like the two teams that hate each other the most, really just for more recent history, as opposed to long-standing rivalries, right?
And Colorado, Dallas too. Those teams hate each other the most because of their histories.
Yeah, that's another good one. But yeah, definitely, I think with Edmonton, LA, like you said, the cores have largely stayed the same over those 4 years, and I don't think that's manufactured, hate or bulletin board by any means. I think that's just from, like I said, the having clashed that many times. It's kind of built in that. From game one, it's going to be a battle, and one guy who hasn't been there for their previous series is Darcy Kemper. Los Angeles, like I said, it could come down to goaltending. Heading into the playoffs, Darcy Kemper has allowed 2 or fewer goals, so 2 or less goals in 16 of his last 17 games. We mentioned Stuart Skinner. He was coming off a concussion. He had been pretty inconsistent prior to getting hurt, but then he comes out and plays 1 goal against in the win in Winnipeg, and then the shutout in the regular season finale in San Jose. So both goaltenders are coming in fairly hot. Do you guys think, maybe start with you, Dan, and we'll let Maddie weigh in on the goaltending too, but do you think that is potentially the difference in this series, or do you think the Oilers are just too potent to be stopped if McDavid and Draisaitl are coming in hot?
Well, I think it is a difference. I think, yeah, that McDavid and Draisaitl are playoff guys. Like look at the records that they've been breaking. Well, McDavid and stuff. And yeah, I think that's probably the biggest X factor in the series is, are we gonna get game one, game two, middle of the season Skinner, or are we gonna get elimination Skinner? Kemper's been there. He's done it. Like, I just, again, if the Oilers can get on him early, maybe they get in his head, but it's just gonna come down to which of these two goaltenders. It's not even necessarily that Skinner's got to like go steal games, because I think the offensive firepower is going to be there for Edmonton. He's got to just make the saves he's supposed to make, and not let any weak ones in where they have to come from behind. Because then, when you're chasing games, even with the firepower, right? Like now Kemper's hot and he gets in the Oilers' heads.
Potentially, yeah. Like I said, Kemper's been there, done that. He won a cup with Colorado a few years back, so he's got that Stanley Cup ring. He's got the confidence coming into the playoffs. Maddie, are the Oilers going to be able to light Darcy Kemper up, or are you worried about him being the guy they're facing in goal?
Like if we can get to the net and shoot low instead of shooting wide or shooting where that Kemper create some rebounds and some chaos in front of the net. Plus, like, if we get traffic, he's not going to stop what he can't see. And with Bouchard, Like, come on, why are we ripping a Bouchard bomb every time when all he has to do is shoot for a stick and get a deflection with a wrist shot and get the puck to the net?
Bouchard's in your doghouse today, Maddie. That's 2 times you've called him out already. But I hear you, and maybe what about
If we,
or go ahead, Jeff.
I'll defend Bouchard a little bit for everything that's gone wrong with him this regular season. If we get playoff Bouchard from last year, then we'll be happy. But yeah, his
Yep.
regular season definitely is leaving a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, though.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what about those Oilers forward lines? Because this is the thing, with all those names we've rattled off that haven't been in the lineup, there isn't a lot of chemistry. The full roster has yet to play a game together since the trade deadline. So how do you guys see the Oilers lining up? I know down the stretch they had Jeff Skinner and Connor Brown with McDavid. They had some success. Do you stick with that, or do you go back with obviously Zach Hyman's been attached to McDavid's hip for the last couple of years? Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has been another wingman on the top line, or do you want to go, four deep down the middle with McDavid, Draisaitl, Nuge, Henrique, or what do you guys sort of see? Who should be? We'll start at the top. Who should be playing with McDavid? Who's his wing? Who are his wingers for game one?
I actually, Jeff Skinner, first time in the playoffs. Give him Skinner and give Skinner, McDavid, and Hyman. My opinion. McDavid and Hyman clearly have that chemistry. It's everyone was ripping on Skinner, but I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Until the injuries happened, he wasn't getting a lot of top six looks, and then as soon as he was, like, the puck was going in for him. He was playing great. If we signed Skinner to be in our bottom six, then it was a little bit of a wasted signing, in my opinion. That second line, I think you kind of leave it with Podkolzin and Draisaitl, Arvidsson. I think that's starting to figure its way out. And it gives like Podsy and Dry are big bodies, and Arvidsson, even though he's not tall, like he's thick, he's strong, he's a little bit of a beast. So that's a heavy second line. And then with Kane healthy, you can go Kane, Nugent, Hopkins, and Brown. And I mean, again, you've got a little bit of everything there. Kane obviously mixes it up. He's tough. He's got skill, though. Nugent, Hopkins, skill, vision, right? Brown did the same thing last year. Now, the end of the year, he's starting to pot goals. It gives you three, sort of one. I would say the Skinner, McDavid, Hyman line isn't necessarily like a big, heavy, hard to play against line. Like Hyman's a dog on the puck, but with the amount of skill out there, they're probably going to hold on to the puck more than having to fight for it. But then lines 2 and lines 3 are heavy, hard to play against lines, and that's when you can start to wear down the opposition. And then you've got Frederick, Henrique, Perry. I don't know that Perry slots into every game. I think he starts game one and they see what happens, because I mean, I don't know if you want to leave Janmark off the PK, right? Or they'll have to figure that part out. And Kapanen, again, if Kapanen gets hot, he might stay in for 4 games in a series, because he's sort of a streaky guy, right? So if he comes into game one and he's streaky, he might play games 1, 2, 3, and 4, and if he cools off, 4 is not a good game. Maybe they slide him out in 4 for someone else in 5. But I mean, you brought Frederick in for a reason, so he's probably the only sort of lock on that fourth line, unless again the injury takes him out. That's kind of where I'd go. If you look at all the cup winners, depth down the middle is usually how they do it.
And we know LA's deep down the middle too, with obviously Kopitar, Byfield's emergence, and Phil Deneau as sort of their three. So if you can have Nugent, Hopkins, and Deneau kind of competing as threes, and of course, Maddie, that the Oilers always have the nuclear option if they are behind. If Skinner does let in a bad goal and they're chasing, you can always load McDavid and Draisaitl up on the top line, or get Nugent Hopkins back up there. If Skinner's not going, you can go back to Nuge, McDavid, Hyman, who've had success in last year's playoff run. So it's nice to have all these options when you're talking about guys like Janmark and Kapanen that are currently on the outside looking in potentially for our playoff lineup. But again, we don't know exactly what the status is of Evander Kane and Trent Frederick. So it might be a little different, but this feels like a deep group. Are you excited about the forward lines, and how do you see them shaping out, Maddie?
Yeah, I like Skinner with McDavid. The only reason why I like Skinner's quick too, just like Connor is. You could probably keep up with him. And then you got like Hyman, who's just like Arvidsson. He's a puck hound pit bull, kind of small but feisty.
Totally. Yeah. No, yeah, that's and you need those kind of guys in the playoffs, especially when you guys look at the X factors for this series. Obviously, you start with McDavid and Draisaitl, assuming they're both healthy. They can take these games over on their own, but you know, we talk about the Skinners. I think you got to mention both Jeff and Stu as not necessarily wild cards, but certainly potential to be X factors, as well as Evander Kane and Trent Frederick for the Oilers. And then you look at the Kings. I mean, you got Byfield, who again he's never been the best big game player. You look at all the showcases he's been at. He tends to fade a little bit, but he's been so strong this season, having such a breakout that you have to think maybe this is where, you know, if LA wins this series, or if it goes to Game 7 and LA is going to come out on top, you almost feel like Quentin Byfield has to be a beast in this series. Obviously, their deadline pickup, Andrei Kuzmenko. I don't think we're allowed to call him the KKK line, but Kopitar, Kempe, Kuzmenko, that line's been on absolute fire. Throw in the other K with Darcy Kemper. Kevin Fiala's filling the net, and obviously Drew Gowdy as their horse on the back end. Nobody's more competitive than him come playoff time. And then two guys that were essentially traded for each other as free agent signings. Obviously, Edmonton chose to bring in Victor Arvidsson, and LA turned around and signed Warren Fogle, who's I think he's almost at 25 goals this year for the Kings. And certainly we know all about special teams power plays. LA's took Doughty off the power play. They're running 5 forwards. It's been on fire down the stretch in the regular season, and we know that Edmonton's power play has been among the league's best, and that 5-man unit's still intact for these playoffs. So I expect Edmonton's power play to heat up, but kind of rattling off those X factors. Anything else stand out for you guys, or any one of those, Dan, that really jumps out at you when you think what's going to be a factor in this series?
No, like I said before, I think, you know, it's going to come down to the goaltending. I think the Oilers do have the offensive edge. I think LA's got a little bit of the decor edge, especially with Ekholm being out. And so it's going to come down to which goaltender plays better for his team. And again, like I said, Skinner doesn't necessarily have to like have a 45-50 save, steal a game performance, but like he has to make sure that he makes the saves he needs to make, so that when the Oilers are throwing the pressure on Kemper and maybe pucks aren't going in, they don't panic when all of a sudden one kind of squeaks by Skinner, which has kind of been his Achilles heel in the past, right? So we need to keep it we need to keep it 0-0 for as long as we can until we kind of break the seal down at the other end.
Especially with the series starting in LA and not having home ice, even if it gets to a Game 7. Is that the way you feel too, Maddie? Or what do you think is going to be the biggest factor for either team in this series?
I don't like Kuzmenko. He's soft. Like I think like the others are gonna like Draisaitl is gonna smack people around, and then you got like your bottom three lines are gonna have some heavyweight power. You got King, you got Frederick, you got Corey Perry, who's not a weight to throw his weight around either. And then you got like, and then you like, I think like maybe like Connor Brown could score a couple of shorthanded goals. If you're gonna run 4 forwards on, you better get ready to be back.
Yeah, that's a good point. Edmonton
that scares me.
Yeah, for them going 5 forwards, you're right. Edmonton's probably going to get some shorthanded chances if they can break that up. And you're right about Draisaitl. Playoff Draisaitl's a different beast, and he's been well rested now. He's going to come out and like Dan said, that hatred that's built in. We all remember Mikey Anderson doing the takedown, injuring Draisaitl's ankle. I don't know if that was last year or the year before, but again, these things carry over from year to year, and there is that built-in hatred. So I think Draisaitl's going to come out looking to prove a point, as I believe he's the Hart Trophy winner this season. Obviously led the league in goals, and the fact we're saying he might be able to take it to even another level in playoffs. That's bad news for the Kings. But what about predictions, guys? Let's get these predictions rolling. Edmonton or Los Angeles, Edmonton. Who's winning it and how many games? I'll let Maddie. You can go first. What are you thinking? Who's winning this series? How many games?
Edmonton is in 5.
Oilers in 5. Okay, same. It's a repeat of last year. Last year was Oilers in 5. Dan, what do you got?
Oh, my heart says Oilers in 7. So I'll go there just to hopefully maybe that'll pump the boys up. But yeah, it's gonna come down to that goaltending piece. So, but I'll go Oilers in 7. I'll go with my heart.
Okay, yeah, well, we'll make that a clean sweep. We'll go. I got Edmonton in 6. I think they get the split, whether it's game 1 or game 2 in LA, and I think they win all 3 games in Edmonton. So again, I think they close it out on home ice in game 6, coming back with a 3-2 lead. So they'll get the split. They'll be going back to LA up 3-1. LA will force a game 6 back in Edmonton, and they'll get her done there on. I think that'll be not this coming Thursday, but the following Thursday if it plays out that way. But as you guys mentioned, if Edmonton does get out of that first round, it's not going to get any easier because the Vegas Golden Knights staying in the Pacific bracket, they are the top seed again. Obviously, that's another team we're very familiar with. Their lineup hasn't changed much since their Stanley Cup win 2 years ago. They've drawn Minnesota, the Minnesota Wild, as the first wild card. Obviously, Minnesota's no slouch. They've got Kirill Kaprizov's back healthy. Joel Eriksson active. They were banged up down the stretch, but they seem to be healthy. They got the youth movement, young guys emerging with Matt Boldy and Marco Rossi and Brock Faber, and they have some of that grit down the lineup with Marcus Foligno and Ryan Hartman. They got some vets like Matt Zuccarello and Gustav Nyquist, and obviously Philip Gustafson's been among the top goaltenders this season in the regular season. They still have Marc-Andre Fleury there as well. But you look at the Golden Knights, and as mentioned, won the Cup 2 years ago. The core remains. Still got Jack Eichel. Mark Stone didn't even have to go on LTIR this year. He's maybe he's got some hard miles on him from not resting the last couple months. But Mark Stone's obviously their big leader, along with Alex Pietrangelo. Shea Theodore, contract, or he signed an extension, but he's obviously a big guy. Aiden Hill was their cup-winning goaltender. William Karlsson seems to be heating up, and they got Riley Smith back at the deadline. Again, reuniting the band or getting the band back together in Vegas, and we know that their D-core is as strong as there is in the playoffs. They're 6 deep, and Noah Hannafin's helped take that group to another level. But Dan, maybe just that series, what stands out for you? That's one of those matchups that there isn't a built-in hatred. There's no real rivalry. When you think Vegas, Minnesota, I can't even remember a memorable regular season game. But do you think this series could heat up, or is this going to be a cakewalk for Vegas, or what are you thinking?
I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for Vegas. I'm actually it's not going to be a cakewalk for either team. I guess like again, yeah, it comes down to like that back end on Minnesota is pretty good, and are the big Vegas forwards who I don't want to say they lack speed. They're in the NHL, but they're not the most fleet of foot. With Stone's a little bit older. Guys like that. Like, are they going to be able to get inside that decor in Minnesota and get to the danger areas as often as they want? Because when you got the guys in Minnesota, like a Faber and those guys that are able to just quickly kind of turn the puck over and counterattack, it's going to be a little bit harder for Vegas, in my opinion, to just do what they want at will, especially when it comes down to playoff hockey versus regular season hockey. So
Yeah, I guess you look at Vegas, their bottom 6, the Kolsars and some of the big bodies that they have down there, and you think about that Minnesota D. Obviously, Brock Faber's not the biggest guy. Jared Spurgeon plays way bigger than he is, but they do have Middleton. They have some size on the back end too, but I'd say on average they got a bit of a smaller, more fleet of foot, more of a mobile back end, like you said, and potential even for Zeev Blyam to debut. They held him out in the regular season finale because that was a must-win game, but there's a lot of hype about him coming out of the NCAA as a recent signing. Maybe I'll stay with Dan for that one because I know you're familiar with Zeev, but what do you think his potential impact is, and do you see him as maybe even one of the X factors in this series?
I mean, absolutely, because how do you game plan for a guy you've never seen if you're the Vegas Golden Knights? Do you prey on maybe some rookie naivety like in the playoffs and some rookie mistakes? The size thing for the Wild, like, it doesn't bug me as much. I mean, they play in a heavy division in the Central, and they were pretty successful there. I mean, I know they only got into a wild card spot, but they're so quick, they're so fast, their IQ is off the charts. So I think for the big thing right now is getting like Byam up to speed with everything else that those D are doing. And then you'll see him inserted in the lineup, and he's going to bring even more speed and skill. And so it's fine that you have Kolesar and some of these guys that want to bang, but like that puck is going to be back up the ice pretty quick on Vegas, and they might not get to lay the physical punishment that they want to.
And what about you, Maddie? What do you see as far as the X factors in this series? Obviously, you're very familiar with Vegas's roster. You just saw the Golden Knights live in person. What do you think of that Vegas team, and what do you think of this series, especially with whether it's Jack Eichel versus Kaprizov, or Vegas has guys that maybe haven't been a big part of this or of their playoff team in the past. Guys like Thomas Hertl, Pavel Dorofeev might be the one of the most underrated breakout players this season, well over 30 goals. And a guy like Victor Olofsson came over from Buffalo, has played with Eichel, a bit of a power play weapon. But do you think this comes down to maybe Hill versus Gustafsson in goal, or how do you see this series? What are sort of the factors you're looking forward to, Maddie?
Well, let's see if Jack Eichel could be playoff Jack Eichel. But like, you also got. Let's not forget about Barbashev.
Right, yeah. That's a good name to throw out there too, yeah.
And like, I mean, like, can Kaprizov make his mark finally in the NHL in the postseason matchup? We're about to find out.
Yeah, I think Kaprizov will be super excited to be in the playoffs, and again, he's well rested. He's going to have to be an X factor for Minnesota. He'll have to outplay Eichel, outplay Stone. He'll have to be at least a point per game guy in this series. I think for Minnesota had to make it a long series, and I think guy like Matt Boldy's a big strong kid. I think he could have a decent impact. Marco Rossi's having another guy who's having a bit of an underrated season as far as the youth movement in mini goes. Like you said though, Dan, I mean Jonas Brodin, even he's not the biggest guy, but he's such a solid, rock solid defender. That bottom pair, John Merrill, Zach Bogosian, that doesn't compare to Vegas's bottom pair of I think it'll be White Cloud and Haig. Like there's a little bit of a drop off outside the top four in Minnesota, but that's where maybe you see Z Byam come in, whether he plays with Bogosian or whoever. I think that's where he could be a bit of an X factor. But what about predictions for this series, Dan? Vegas, Minnesota, what are you looking at?
Wild and 6, baby.
You're taking the upset.
Wild and 6.
Wow. Okay, Maddie, what about you? You gonna jump on that Minnesota bandwagon, or do you think the Golden Knights are the team to beat at least in the first round in this matchup?
I mean, like, Vegas has been in the playoffs for like 3 of the first like 5 seasons. The playoff weren't tearing their bodies. I'm taking the upside. Wild in 7.
Oh wow, both taking the upset. That's wild. Okay, yeah, I'm not feeling it. I think this Minnesota team. I'd love to see them make some noise, but I'm going the opposite. I think that playoff experience for Vegas. I think there's some wear and tear there, some hard miles, and like I said, they didn't get a chance to rest Mark Stone down the stretches here. But I think just that playoff experience, battle tested, home ice advantage. I have Vegas in 5. I think Minnesota will get game 3 or game 4 back in Minnesota, but I think Vegas wins all 3 at home, and they're going into Minnesota up 2-0 with a commanding lead. I think Vegas gets her done in 5, and they get to sit back and watch LA and Edmonton beat each other up in a bit of a longer series in as far as the first round in the Pacific goes. But that's interesting. 2 out of 3 are taking Minnesota for the upset, so I'm sure our audience is intrigued by that because, like I said, that's not a matchup that we've seen before in the playoffs, Vegas, Minnesota. So definitely a really intriguing predictions there to 2 people to take the Wild. If we're moving over to the Central Division, we got the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets. I don't know if they're lucky or unlucky, but they've drawn one of the hottest teams, or I believe it is the team who's had the best record or the most points since the Four Nations, the St. Louis Blues, who actually surged into the playoffs but wound up as the second wild card. Lots of storylines in this series. You got the Battle of the Shen brothers. Braden obviously captains the Blues, and Luke, who we know as a former Kelowna Rocket, was a deadline addition for Winnipeg for the Jets. You got the rematch in goal from the Four Nations Championship game. You got Connor Hellebuyck, who's obviously going to win the Vezina. He might be Leon Draisaitl's biggest competition for the Hart Trophy, but Jordan Binnington, obviously we all remember the Four Nations, stood on his head in overtime and helped Canada defeat Hellebuyck in the United States to bring home that trophy. Again, I think Hellebuyck might be the regular season MVP or right there with Draisaitl, but he's had his playoff struggles, including last year's first round exit against Colorado when Nathan McKinnon and the boys lit him up. But you got the best team in the regular season, Maddie, and I'm wondering, do you believe in the President's Trophy curse, or are you sensing a potential upset here as well for the Blues?
I'm still not sold on Connor Hellebuyck's goaltending in the postseason. I mean, he hasn't proven to me one bit that he deserves it right now. You look on the other side of the crease, you got big time Binnington, who's been there, won a Stanley Cup, right? With Ehlers hurt and Sandberg hurt, can the Jets hang on?
Yeah, that's a good point. Nick Ehlers is out. Gabe Vilardi, I don't know his injury status for game one, but he's been missing for a couple weeks down the stretch. So the Jets are a little banged up, and obviously Hellebuyck's confidence in pressure situations will be tested again. But Dan, to you, do you feel like the St. Louis Blues are channeling their 2019 vibes? If you go back to 2019 when the Blues were the hottest team in the second half, and Craig Berube came on as an interim coach, took them all the way with Jordan Binnington as the backstopping them to their only Stanley Cup in franchise history. This year, it's Jim Montgomery comes in midway through the season, and obviously the Blues are coming in hot again. They are a younger team, but dangerous. But do you feel like those 2019 vibes are there again for the Blues?
I think they're hoping. I think they're trying to recreate that. But yeah, I mean, you're missing, Ryan O'Reilly, guys like that were kind of around that team that were a little more mature, that could kind of help guide that ship when things were maybe, the water was coming aboard. They just don't have, I guess Shen is still there, but I don't know, they just don't have that calming presence really, in my like opinion, that they had in those years with the Blues, right? Like as good as Binnington was for Canada Four Nations, thank you Jordan Binnington for helping Canada win that. He's not exactly the calming presence. If you've noticed him when he's in net, sometimes he could get a little feisty and a little wild, right? So it's going to be a heck of a series. It's going to be fun to watch. I think as a hockey fan, that's going to be one that, probably be the most fun for me to watch, just with having no horse in the race, and I don't really care what happens, right?
Yeah, and like I said, Binnington, he's definitely, we saw it in the Four Nations, right? He's always got a chip on his shoulder. He's one of the more competitive guys. They did get Colton Parayko back for the playoffs. He played these last couple of regular season games. We don't know the status of Hollywood, our former Oiler Dylan Holloway. He's banged up week to week. Doesn't sound like he's going to play game one, but it'll be interesting because obviously another guy, Jake Neighbors, who is an Edmonton Oil King, he's like the youth movement in St. Louis. They're ahead of schedule. The fact they surged into the playoffs this year, they are a younger team. Obviously, Holloway had a great year. Jake Neighbors, Zach Bolduc. They signed Jimmy Snuggerud, another one of these college kids who's coming in, potential to make an impact, especially if Holloway's not playing. Snuggerud's probably potentially in his spot. Even the recent first rounder, Dalibor Dvorsky's an option. We know Philip Broberg from Edmonton, his potential impact on D. Cam Fowler they got for a fourth round pick or something this year, fourth round pick. He was one of the best trade acquisitions throughout the year. So that really helps their blue line. Obviously, we know Josh Morrissey is the horse on Winnipeg's side, and Winnipeg's top line, if Vilardi's healthy, that Connor Scheifele Vilardi line. Binnington's gonna have his hands full trying to stop them. I know on the other side you got guys like Shannon, Kyrou, and Thomas, but what about X factors? Maddie, do you think this does come down to goaltending, the Hellebuyck versus Binnington, or do you think some of these other names we're throwing out could potentially have a big impact on this series?
I mean, Josh Morrissey's a little banged up too. He got hurt in this last game. Um, yeah. My X factors are like Ken Thomas and Robert Thomas and Jordan Carew be the players that the Blues need them to be. And then on the other side, Ken Hellenbach hold down the fort.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest question mark. And Dan, for you, any last thoughts, and then you can lead off the prediction. You can give your X
Yeah.
factor straight into your prediction.
Uh, I mean, the easy one to go to is goaltending, but I think it's going to come down to which team can be the healthiest through this series. I think they're going to beat the crap out of each other, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to health. My prediction is Hellebuck extracts his revenge, and the Jets get out of this series in 5 or 6.
Okay, you're going Jets, and Hellebuck, changes his reputation a little bit in playoffs. What about you, Maddie? Are you sensing another upset? You took Minnesota over Vegas. Yeah, are you going St. Louis over Winnipeg, or are the President's Trophy curse no longer a thing, and the Jets are getting out of the first round?
Like Dan said, if the Jets can stay healthy and Colin Hellenbach plays like the Vezina Trophy winner he can be, yeah, the Jets make it back. But like, if they can't stay healthy, then St. Louis will
Yeah.
take it.
So what's your prediction? Who do you got? How many games? Put you on the spot.
I say Jets in 7.
Jets in 7. Okay, I like that. Nice long series, and we're definitely seeing the Western Conference a little different, guys. Because I just think this Blues team coming in as hot as they are, the momentum they have. If they steal one game in Winnipeg and in the whiteout in Winnipeg, because the Jets are gonna have that crowd rocking, and we know that atmosphere, and if they can plant a little bit of doubt in Connor Hellebuck and get one of those first 2 games, especially if it's game one. I'm smelling another. I'm smelling an upset here. You guys took the upset Minnesota over Vegas. I'm taking St. Louis over Winnipeg. I got the Blues in 6. I think Binnington's going to be dialed in and like I said, have that chip on his shoulder. And I really think if Dylan Holloway was in this series, I think he would have been the X factor. He's one of the almost a point per game guy, one of the hottest guys going since the Four Nations until he got hurt. That's a big loss for the Blues just with how hot Holloway was. But I still think whether it's Snuggerud stepping up or some of these other guys, I think the Blues are going to surprise the Jets. I do believe in the President's Trophy curse. I wouldn't want my favorite team to win the President's Trophy curse. And I think the Jets are going to be joining the Flames and the Canucks on the golf course. So Marshall's bandwagon team will be teeing off next to his Flames in a couple weeks' time. I have the St. Louis Blues in 6. So that's how I see that series playing out in the Central. And then you already mentioned this series, Maddie, but maybe or arguably the best matchup of the first round pits the Dallas Stars against the Colorado Avalanche with Mikko Rantanen facing his former team. That's obviously the biggest storyline here, and talk about a plot twist with Dallas acquiring Rantanen from Carolina after Colorado failed to sign their star sniper. I mean, McKinnon's their number one forward, but Rantanen's been his wingman, his another finisher for Colorado for a decade, or that close to that anyway. So Colorado sending Rantanen to the Hurricanes for Marty Necas and Jack Drury, only to see Carolina flip him back to their division rival Dallas Stars for Logan Stankoven. And now all of a sudden, who's seen this coming? We got Nathan McKinnon versus Mikko Rantanen in the first round. Dan, what do you make of those two going head to head, and the fact that we got Dallas, Colorado about to slug it out?
Yeah, again, another obviously going to be intense series. A couple big teams willing to go at it. Obviously, I would put McKinnon ahead of Rantanen. Rantanen kind of got to ride shotgun with him a little bit, and we all know McKinnon's a gamer. Arguably one of the best sort of two-way forwards in the league with an insane amount of offensive upside. And has proven time and time again that when the chips are down, he's one of the guys you want, right? I mean, he's in that top 2 or 3 sort of conversation of the puck's on their stick, who do you want? And it's kind of McKinnon, McDavid, and I don't know, be that much of a homer, Draisaitl. Like those are sort of the 3 guys that were all, if you're talking forwards, right? That you kind of want the puck on their stick in big moments, you know, in the Western Conference anyway. So, you know, I think McKinnon's going to win that head-to-head matchup on the ice, and it's going to be up to the supporting cast of 2 teams to kind of see which way this series goes.
For sure. And to you, Maddie, I know, like we said, we know Nate's got that dog in him as far as McKinnon goes. He's going to be a driver in this series. But all the talk about the Oilers' injuries, and suddenly Dallas is one of the teams that really is the walking wounded heading into the playoffs. Jason Robertson goes down with a knee injury against Nashville in a nothing game last night or the other night. Tyler Seguin returned in that game, got an assist, and moments later, Jason Robertson goes down, which obviously they're already without Miro Heiskanen. We don't get Heiskanen versus Makar, which would have been an awesome matchup. The 3rd and 4th overall picks from 2017. Miro Heiskanen has been hurt for some time, not expected back in the first round. Otherwise, that would have been a marquee matchup on defense. But when you think about Jason Robertson going down and no Miro Heiskanen, obviously Robertson, another big blow, assuming he misses some time. I know he left the building in a knee brace by the sounds of it. But Maddie, what are your thoughts on maybe playing a guy like Robertson against a non-playoff team like Nashville in kind of a nothing game? Should have they rested him, or what are your thoughts on that? And just the fact that Dallas is actually coming into the playoffs as the walking wounded, and maybe this matchup isn't as good on paper as it could be if Robertson and Heiskanen are healthy.
Well, for starters, good thing the game's not played on paper. Like, what are they? I know you guys are trying to get chemistry and keep the guys sharp, but like, why are you playing your star players in a nothing game? And like, proceeds like injuries happen. It's all part of the sport game. Like I don't get it. Like I don't like it's tough. It's a catch-22.
It is for sure. Yeah, it's a tough decision, and this series, Maddie, might have the most X factors or the most storylines of anything going. Obviously, we got McKinnon versus Rantanen, but I think a lot of people will be watching Rantanen versus Necas because they're the guys that were traded for each other, Mikko Rantanen and Martin Necas. So that's going to be interesting because Necas has had a big impact for Colorado. Rantanen's starting to get it going for Dallas. If Robertson is out, Dallas needs Rantanen to be, an elite contributor in this series. Obviously, we got Cale Makar, put up over 30 goals as a defenseman this year. The slam dunk Norris winner, probably not far off from, we're talking Draisaitl and Hellebuyck in the Hart race. Makar might, McKinnon and Kucherov are there too, but Cale Makar, the year he had as a defenseman, especially the goal scoring, I think Colorado's D is superior with no Heiskanen. That's a huge blow for Dallas. So you got Makar, Taves, Gerard Manson, and a guy like Ryan Lindgren that they picked up from the Rangers on their 3rd pair with Malinsky, who's been impressive. The goaltending matchup, you got Jake Ottinger, Mackenzie Blackwood. Again, advantage Dallas in goal, I think, with Ottinger, but Blackwood has really, stabilized Colorado's goaltending. The Avs did the entire goaltending turnover this year. They started with Alexander Georgiev and Justice Sanunin and switched it up. They got the Wood tandem now. They got Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood. Obviously, we have Gabriel Landeskog. That storyline, if he actually plays in this series after being off for 2 years, came back in the AHL, scored a goal in the AHL conditioning stint. Looks like he's going to be a potential option for Colorado. Tyler Seguin, we mentioned he's been out for a lot of the year. He's back for Dallas. You talk about guys playing their former team. It's been a while, but Matt Duchene also facing his former team. He's had such a big year for Dallas up against his old team in Colorado. You got Big Val Nichushkin. He's been a playoff wild card in recent years. He's had a couple off-ice incidents that have taken him out of the picture, but when he's playing, he's another guy that's a beast for Colorado. And the deadline additions for the Avs, Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle, as just really solidified their center depth. Rattling off a lot of storylines there, Maddie, but what stands out to you? And Is it maybe the Landeskog story, or what out of those? Which ones caught your ear, caught your eye?
Yeah. Like, uh, can Mackenzie Blackwood perform at a high level? Like, there's so much pressure. Then you got like, yeah, maybe like you just mentioned Brock Nielsen. Can Gabriel Landeskog return to form from 2 years ago? 2 years is a long time of not playing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And Dan, obviously, you can weigh in on Landeskog and whether you think he could A, play, and B, actually have an impact or be a factor in this series, and maybe tackle the goaltending too, because we all know Jake Oettinger had that amazing series against Calgary a couple years ago for Dallas, but since then he hasn't. We thought that was elevating him to Hellebuck level superstardom, and he's had his struggles down the stretch too. So obviously he's playing behind a pretty shady defense, shoddy defense right now with. I think there's Lyabushkin and some of those guys that are out there playing top 4 minutes. But what do you make of this series and whether it's Landeskog or the goaltending? What do you think are going to be X factors?
Yeah, so I do think Ottinger has been a little inconsistent in the playoffs. I mean, for everything we want to say about Hellebuck, Ottinger's been very similar as far as a playoff performer is going. So the edge is there if Ottinger's a regular season Ottinger. But is he going to be that guy? Because he's been pretty wishy-washy in the playoffs. I think for Landeskog, like even if he's on the fourth line with limited minutes, I think just his presence in the room and on the bench is going to be such a galvanizing thing for this Avs team that it's his impact is probably not going to be on the score sheet each and every night in the series. His impact is going to be just the fact that he's there. I mean, he's a team guy. The teammates love him. So yeah, that impact is going to be felt whether he's second line getting minutes or fourth line, and maybe he's getting rotated off that fourth line. They get some guy on the third line or first line's getting some extra minutes, right? Really depends on his health what they're going to do, but I think they're going to dress him just to have sort of that galvanizing impact that he's going to have from that standpoint. So I think no Heiskanen is going to make this a tall task for Dallas.
Yeah, and great point on Landeskog, just his presence, how much that's going to boost the overall spirit of the Avs. Maddie, prediction time. Dallas has home ice advantage in this series. Colorado will be starting on the road. Is that a factor? What's your prediction for this series? Who wins and how many games?
Yeah, if Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin keep playing at the level they are, and regular season Jake Ottinger shows up, they have a chance. But if they don't, I see Colorado in 5 or 6.
Okay, and Dan, what about you? You think Dallas, especially with no Heiskanen and maybe no Robertson, are they doomed, or are guys like Rupe Hintz and Ranton and some of these other guys going to keep up with McKinnon and maybe Ottinger steals a couple games, or what's your prediction for this series?
No Heiskanen means no chance in hell. They're done in 5.
Okay, you're both going a short series in favor of Colorado, and
I just honestly like no Heiskanen and Landeskog coming back. The level that Colorado is going to get to is it's hey.
Yeah,
I know that they didn't win the cup last year and they won it a couple years ago and they kind of looked off last year in the playoffs, but that Colorado's scary.
Yeah, I think they got a super deep team, forward group and defense, especially if Landeskog.
Pardon the pun, but it might be a pure avalanche on the Dallas Stars in this postseason.
Right? Yeah, the avalanche could be happening to Dallas, and I'm going to agree with you guys on this one. We've been split on the West. We were all in favor of Edmonton. You guys were both Minnesota over Vegas. I had Vegas there. You guys were both Winnipeg over St. Louis. I actually took the upset with the Blues in that wild card. But this series, I'm with you. I had Colorado in 6 before Jason Robertson got hurt. I'm tempted to say Colorado in 5 now, but I think just with Dallas having home ice, I'll give them 2 wins. I'll say Colorado in 6, but we agree. We all agree that Edmonton and Colorado are coming out of the first round, and like I said, we're split on the other ones. But if we shifting over to the Eastern Conference now, we've got the Battle of Ontario, the only all-Canadian matchup of the first round. The Toronto Maple Leafs against the Ottawa Senators. Austin Matthews against Brady Tkachuk, ironically, as American captains of these all-Canadian matchup. But, so many storylines here, too. Mitch Marner, is this his last hurrah as a Leaf, pending free agent? If they don't get, deep in this playoff run, does that spell the end of Marner and the big four in Toronto with obviously Matthews, Marner, William Nylander, and John Tavares? The goaltending, Toronto's goaltending. I know Anthony Solares has been a stud lately, again down the stretch, but obviously he's probably their game one starter. Joseph Woll's in the mix with Toronto, but it looks like looks like Craig Berube is going with Anthony Solares as his guy. But Travis Green counters with Linus Ullmark, a recent Vezina winner between the Pipes for Ottawa. Can Ullmark stop those Leaf studs? Especially that top line, Marner, Matthews, and young Matthew Nyes, who's been filling the net lately, and obviously got Nylander and Tavares coming in the second wave. And then, like we said, we got the Craig Berube factor, and I really do feel like Toronto's built different this year. Even their deadline additions, Scott Laughton, Brandon Carlo, those are playoff type guys. They added Lorentz from Florida, who won a cup in Florida, along with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. So they got a couple recent cup winners from last year. I think Max Domi's going to have an impact. Their big offseason addition that Brad Treliving knew really well from Calgary, Chris Tanev. I think he's a guy that takes his team to a different, or adds a different dimension come playoff time. And obviously even a guy like Bobby McMahon, who we know from the Lloydminster area, Dan, he's been such a workhorse for the Leafs, and another guy that kind of plays that playoff hockey like Laughton and Lorentz and Domi. And so I think between the skill and the grit factor, the Leafs are really built well. But then, I mean, you saw Matthew Tkachuk hoist the cup with Florida last year. You have to imagine the motivation for Brady Tkachuk to lead Ottawa, especially such a rivalry, and the fact he's the captain there. And he's back. I know he played their regular season finale as well. And we'll get into some of those X factors. But just what storylines stand out to you the most in this series, Dan?
I think honestly it's going to come down to the leadership between Brady and Austin, and then is Ullmark going to be the Vezina guy, right? But I look at all of it, and like you've been talking about, Toronto's built a little different. They are and they aren't, because they haven't really changed their playing style a ton even under Berube. Yeah, they can get tough. Yeah, they can do things, but I still just don't see that like kind of it factor around the Leafs quite yet. That's not to say they won't win this series. I'm just more talking from a general overview. I still think they're probably a couple more shakeups in that lineup away from really doing some damage in a long playoff run. Marner's probably playing for a new contract in Toronto or wherever he's going, so he could pop off here and do some damage. But I'll let Maddie take over before I completely have Leafs Nation coming after me.
I was gonna say, Maddie, we got the Battle of Alberta a couple of years ago in the playoffs when McDavid burned the Flames, and we know how much fun that was, and we talked about Edmonton, Los Angeles having that hatred, but when it's the provincial rivalry, the Battle of Ontario, and you look at all the players in this series, Maddie, who stands out to you? Even a guy like Dylan Cousins, he was a deadline, big trade at the deadline, Josh Norris for Dylan Cousins. That was a big move by Ottawa, but this is Dylan Cousins' first taste of playoffs, along with a guy like Brady Tkachuk. Ottawa's got some young guys that are going to be determined. Even Jake Sanderson, he's probably the best defenseman in this series. He's gonna open a lot of eyes on the national stage if he hasn't already to how good he is. And then they have the wily vets, Claude Giroux, David Perron. It's an interesting team in Ottawa. But Maddie, do you do you feel there could be an upset here, or what sort of stands out to you, maybe from the Senators side that could work in their favor against the Leafs?
Yeah, like if Brady Kachuk can play at a high level and Omar can be the Vezina winning trophy winner from Boston, then I say that Ottawa has a chance, and they need to stay out of the box. You don't want Toronto Maple Leafs power play coming at you.
That's a great point, and I'll maybe throw that back to you, Dan. Obviously, we know the Leafs power play, but I guess it's prediction time. You got the Battle of Ontario, Toronto, Ottawa. You already said Leafs Nation might be coming at you. Does that mean you're sensing a potential upset for the Sens?
Sens in 6. Marner signs with the Oilers.
Wow, there you go. The reunion from the Four Nations. Obviously, McDavid and Marner played together at the Four Nations, drafted in the same year. That would be and people laugh and say, how is that possible? There's a salary cap. Well, A, the salary cap's going up, and B, the Oilers weren't far off from trading for Mikko Rantanen and finding a way to make that work with the money. So they are still big game hunting, even though they got McDavid, Draisaitl, some big names on that roster. And
you got to think there's some guys getting out of the way too, right? So
and maybe that's, if they did manage to sign a guy like Marner, then maybe Evan Bouchard, depending on his contract status, maybe all of a sudden they can't afford to pay him the $10 million, and maybe they're shaking things up on defense. But that'll be the offseason Oilers Roundtable podcast or offseason free agency podcast. But back to you, Maddie. Dan's taking the upset. He's got the Senators in 7 over the Leafs. What do you got in the Battle of Ontario? Who's winning and how many games?
Like, if can Michael Nice keep playing at a high level, and even if Ottawa does lose this series, it'll leave a sour taste in these guys' mouths. They're not going to be happy. Like I said, if Omar can stand on his head, Ottawa stays out of the penalty box. They're a good 5-on-10 team. You got Brady Kachuk, you got Drake Matheson, you got Josh Norris. I mean, these guys are big bodies too. Like David Perron, he knows how to be a Stanley Cup playoffs. Got Claude Giroux. Like, I say Leafs in 7.
Okay, I hear you. So yeah, we all see this series going the distance. We think it'll get to Game 7. I agree, guys. I think Ottawa, Toronto's been to the playoffs before. I think Brady Kachuk's going to come, shot out of a cannon. I think he's going to be running around doing his thing. He might even, I think him and Austin Matthews are pretty good friends, or they have some history in the American program and stuff. But I think he'll go after that. As far as that leadership goes, I think Brady's going to try and get Austin Matthews off his game. I think this rivalry is going to a whole nother level thanks to this playoff series. I think it is going to Game 7. I know Ottawa's got the youth. We've mentioned a lot of them already. We haven't even brought up Timmy Stützle. I think that German, he's gonna might not get to Draisaitl level in the playoffs, but I think he can be a big factor. I really like Dylan Cousins. Shane Pinto's been hot down the stretch. Ridley Gregg, I think, is another guy who's going to get under Toronto's skin. But ultimately, I think the difference was just the playoff experience. And the reason I have it going 7 is I'm still not 100% sold on Toronto's goaltending, whether it's Stolarz or Joseph Woll. I lean the goaltending matchup towards Ottawa with Linus Ullmark, but I really think that Toronto just has more firepower. I do think that power play could become a factor. I have the Leafs in 7. So me and Maddie agree on this one. Toronto in 7. Dan's taking the upset. Ottawa in 7. It's going to be a great series, a great showcase for the all-Canadian matchup in the Battle of Ontario. And that takes us to the Battle of Florida. The other big... Oh, yeah, go ahead, Maddie. You got a closing thought on the Battle of Ontario?
Yeah. I know it's going to be Brady Kachuk running around, but it's going to be important for him to play on the edge and not over it. He doesn't want to get himself in the suspension room.
Yeah, you don't want him to do pull a Nazem Kadri when he used to play for the Leafs and get too emotional and definitely he could be a negative for his team as well. I think he'll have and I think Brady will be a big X factor in that series. His impact as far as who wins the Battle of Ontario. But let's talk the other Atlanta Division bracket matchup, the Battle of Florida. And we said Colorado Dallas was a really intriguing series. I think this is the other one that doesn't have a Canadian team in it, but that really will have the Canadian audience captivated is the Battle of Florida. Obviously, defending champion Florida Panthers. Tampa Bay's won 2 cups with a lot of this core. Obviously, Steven Stamkos has moved on, but they still have Hedman, Kucherov, Point. All their big ringers are still there, and they made some big deadline deals, bringing in Bjorkstrand and bringing back Yanni Gord and obviously, they made the Sergachev deal before the season, but and Connor Geekie came over in that deal. He's been scoring every game down the stretch, even though he spent a lot of the season in the AHL. I think he'll be a factor, but Tampa Bay managed to secure home ice in this Battle of Florida just in the last week or so and won a head-to-head matchup. But I think the thing here, Dan, and we can start here, but so many question marks for Florida. Again, we're talking the walking wounded with Matthew Tkachuk and obviously, some people were joking that they were playing the LTIR card to acquire a guy like Seth Jones and a guy like Brad Marchand and get that cap space, pulling the Tampa's done this before. I think they were the originators with Nikita Kucherov back in the day and their cup winning year. But Matthew Tkachuk's had quite the layoff since the Four Nations. Aaron Ekblad's had quite the layoff. He was suspended for some performance enhancing PEDs. But obviously they got Brad Marchand as sort of they brought the rat in from Boston, and what kind of impact can he have alongside a guy like Sam Bennett, a pending UFA Bennett, but a guy that Bennett Marchand, those guys are going to get under Kucherov's skin, under everybody's skin in this playoff series. But just the amount of question marks for a defending champion, reigning Cup champ, Florida team, Dan. What do you make of that, and how the Panthers are coming into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think the whole purpose of getting Marchand was kind of to replace that Kachuk type thing. Obviously, Marchand's been there. He's won a cup. He can kind of stabilize that room and do things. Again, yeah, another battle, another war. We got 3 kind of first round series with the Oilers and the Kings, and then the Battle of Ontario and the Battle of Florida, where there's a lot of hatred between those 6 teams for each other. And I think coming down the stretch, Florida kind of realized this could be a first round matchup, and if Kachuk's not able to go, which it doesn't seem like he will be, everything kind of points to the season's kind of over till next year. They kind of needed that, he loves it, so I'll call him that rat, if you will. And that was the purpose of getting Marchand. And while you maybe give up some age and some youth there between Marchand and Kachuk, I think the skill's still very similar between those 2 guys. So this one's a tight one. This one's a tight one right now between kind of these 2 teams and these X factors.
And Maddie, what about obviously we got the all-Russian battle of the Russian goaltenders, Bobrovsky and Vasilevsky. They've both been great in the playoffs in recent years. Like Dan said, if Matthew Tkachuk is a no-go for this series, that's you look around the league, guys like Jack Hughes. We're going to talk about the New Jersey series in a bit. He's out. Miro Heiskanen out for Dallas. Some of these huge key players that are going to be missing. If Matthew Tkachuk is out, do you think Brad Marchand can kind of offset that loss, or is that going to tilt things in favor of Tampa? Or what do you see sort of as X factors in this series, Maddie?
Sergei Bobrovsky's got a lot of miles right now, but Brad Marchand could be that offset player, but you don't want to, same thing. You don't want him to do anything stupid that will cost the team in anything way. Yeah, and then on the Tampa side, can Andrei Vasilevsky regain his form from the Stanley Cup last year? They brought back Ryan McDonough. That's a huge pickup. You got Jake Gensel, Kucherov, Braden Point, this Victor Hedman. This team can still score at will if he needs to.
Yeah, those are some great points, Maddie and Dan. I mean, these are, we talk about these first round matchups. These two teams, especially if Tkachuk was healthy. I mean, that's kind of a bit of an X factor in
Yeah.
itself. But on paper, either one of these teams could be a cup contender. We're going to see some really good teams go out in the first round this year, one way or another. And I do think this series is going to be a war. You look at the D side. Maddie mentioned, you got Hedman, McDonough, Eric Chernak. In Tampa, you got Seth Jones as the new guy, but obviously Forsling and Ekblad with Florida, and then up front, I mean, both teams are 9 deep. Even depending on what happens with Tkachuk, you're still 9 deep with Florida, and Tampa's been going strong. What do you make of the overall depth of both these teams and the fact we're gonna lose one of the Florida teams here in the first round?
I mean, I guess for me, at the end of the day, this series is going to come down to special teams. Who like, I think they're going to be very evenly matched 5-on-5, and it's which team's power play or penalty kill is going to become the X factor because you're not giving up a lot between the two. Um, in 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 the between these two teams, I mean, the obvious thing right now is obviously Gensel, Point, Kucherov are probably a little bit better than that Verhaeghe, Barkov, Reinhart line from a points standpoint. But then, as we know, the playoffs tighten up and points and goals and assists aren't quite as easy to come by. So for me, this series, are we doing predictions yet?
Yeah, you can take it away. And I was just
Okay.
going to say, I love the coaching matchup too with John Cooper and Paul Maurice. I think
Yeah,
the fact those two are going to be playing X's and O's and trying to figure out the special teams battle. But go ahead,
I,
take it away on your prediction.
I think the Tampa Bay power play gets this done for them in 7. I think their power play is going to be the reason why they get out of this series. Um, but it's they're not going to be like I would be shocked if the scores in these games were higher than like 3-2 every game. I think this is going to be very low scoring. You got two of the best goaltenders in the game, and there's just not going to be a lot of room to move with all these big bodies out there, and it's going to be it's going to be a Tampa Bay power play running at about 15, 16, 17% that kind of gets it done for them.
Nice. And Maddie, what about you? Obviously, Dan's going Tampa in 7. Tampa does have home ice advantage here, as mentioned. Do you like the Lightning or do you like the Panthers in the Battle of Florida, Maddie? Who wins and how many games?
Quite fitting that the rat signs in the place where they throw rats on the ice. I I say Tampa in 6.
Tampa in 6. Okay, you guys are both feeling Tampa. I think I wondered if we would see a Matthew Tkachuk appearance in this series. I know Dan said it's sounding more and more unlikely, and maybe that was why they brought Marchand in, as they already knew Tkachuk was probably done for and missing the playoffs and not coming back. I keep thinking there's maybe a chance we see him in this series. I think if he does surface, I was going Florida in 7, thinking that Kachuk's back by games 5, 6, 7, and really giving the Panthers a boost. Maybe they'll find some way to inject something into Tkachuk to get him the bionic limbs going and get him back on the ice. Although I think it's more of a core mid body injury, I believe. But I know he's been over to Europe like Austin Matthews was, trying to get some treatment. So I just feel really hard to keep Matthew Tkachuk out of this series. And out of this playoffs after being such an impact player in Florida's Cup run last year. And I think Florida's defense is potentially better, but I do believe that Tampa power play could be on a heater and could be a difference. So I'm going Florida in 7. You guys are the only time we're differing today. You and Maddie are ganging up on me. It's been 2-1. You guys quite often. So I'm the outlier here again. You guys are going Lightning. I got the Panthers, but that Atlantic Division bracket, like I said, the Battle of Ontario and the Battle of Florida, that's going to be all
Didn't you
kind.
guys both get the Battle of Ontario wrong? Didn't you both take the Leafs? I took the Sens.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're the only Sens guy there. So yeah, I guess
I'm the only smart one. I know.
yeah,
It's fine.
Maddie's playing both sides. He's sometimes he's with me, sometimes he's with you. But it's definitely been that Atlantic bracket is going to be a fun one to watch. And now moving on to the Metro Division, guys, we got the resurgent Washington Capitals. all of a sudden they're the East top seed again to some surprise this season. And they're facing, and probably the biggest surprise in the playoffs, the Montreal Canadiens, who made it in as the 5th Canadian team by winning game number 82 at home. This matchup features 2 Russian greats, Alex Ovechkin and Ivan Demidov. Maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves there, but Demidov, all the hype he's getting in Montreal and the fanfare, he came out and he looked like the real deal in his NHL debut in that small sample size. He's another guy that could emerge as a potential difference maker already in this series. But all kidding aside, this matchup does feature 2 of the best one-timers on the power play, Ovechkin and Patrick Laine. I think Laine's another guy when we get to the X factors. What can playoff Laine do? He's not necessarily the most emotional player, but if he could somehow elevate for Montreal in the playoffs, that would be interesting. I know Marshall's not here, but we all called it on the last podcast. Although I think Marshall said that he thought Ovechkin might break Gretzky's record in the playoffs, and actually that wouldn't have counted because playoff goals don't count. It's not career goals; it's only regular season goals. So, but Ovechkin didn't need any playoff goals. He did indeed break Wayne Gretzky's record as the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer, and now the Great Eight's hoping to lead the Caps on another cup run. But like I said, they're running into a live underdog here. Montreal has momentum. Montreal has vibes. But in saying that, Washington's been vibing all season long. I'll maybe get Dan to do a better impersonation, but bands will make her dance. That's the banger that's been Alex Ovechkin. He's turning back time with his goals, but also just the way he's leading this team. But maybe you want to start there, Dan. Just kind of the momentum Montreal has, the vibes on both these teams. What do you like about this series?
Young, exciting team that doesn't know that they're probably not supposed to win this series versus a veteran team that is looking for every single reason to get it done one more time for their leader. So there's going to be a lot of passion and a lot of energy. Listen, Toronto wants to call itself the hockey mecca, but I don't think there's anything better in playoff hockey inside the Bell Center in Montreal, right? And we go to Oiler games and we get the fan zone going and the moss pit going and we have a good time, but there's a difference between the passion that we have and the religion that is the Montreal Canadiens in Montreal, and so it's gonna be electric. Whatever happens in this series and however it goes down, it's gonna be fascinating to watch.
Absolutely, like I said, the Bell Center and the French population there, the passion they have for obviously the team with the most Stanley Cups in history, the most storied franchise, the Montreal Canadiens. Even just hearing the ovations that Demidov was getting for every time he touched the puck or stepped on the ice, and the fact they made it into the playoffs, game 82 at home. I think again the momentum is interesting, but the Capitals, Maddie, they've reloaded overnight in the offseason, made all the right moves, brought in Jacob Chychrun, managed to sign him long term, brought in Logan Thompson as their goaltender. I know he wasn't maybe as hot after the Four Nations or down the stretch, but up till that point, he was right there in the Vezina conversation. Pierre-Luc Dubois, a guy who's always wanted to be a Montreal Canadian. Now he's coming back to Montreal, really rejuvenated his career. You look at Laine and Dubois. We'll get to that storyline, but they were guys that were traded for each other, Winnipeg and Columbus. Now they're facing off in this series with Montreal and Washington. So the musical chairs of the hockey world, but also got guys like Matt Roy, even Rasmus Sandin ahead of last year's deadline. This was Sandin's first full season with Washington. He's been awesome. The emergence of guys like Alexi Protas, like who saw Alexi Protas taking the jump he did? Connor McMichael, obviously, and Dylan Strome as well. They've both taken another step this year. Tom Wilson's been in beast mode this season. You look at the amount of goals he's scored. Everybody thinks he's the big hitter, the big physical presence, and can fight, but he's scoring at Ovechkin type pace this season as well. And Chris Patrick, I think, has to be the league's most underrated general manager right now. I don't even know if the average hockey fan knows that Chris Patrick is the name of the Washington Capitals general manager, but he should be a strong contender for GM of the year when you look at all the moves they've made. Brian McClellan, obviously, he was promoted to president of hockey ops when Patrick took over as GM last July, but McClellan deserves a lot of credit for helping put this roster together too. And Maddie, just talk about the impressive turnaround that it's been for the Washington Capitals. The fact Ovi broke the goal record. Do you think this Washington team is, just kind of a team of destiny this year, or is it more so Montreal and the momentum they're bringing in that could knock off a top seed?
Yeah. To me, this series definitely comes down to goaltending. Can Logan Thompson be the first half of the year Logan Thompson? Or can Samuel Montembeault stay hot and be the second half stud that he's been? And can Nick Suzuki keep playing at a high level and Brendan Gallagher doing Brendan Gallagher things?
Yeah, Galley's been, you talk about the emotional leaders, like we've talked about Gabriel Landeskog in Colorado. I think Brendan Gallagher is one of those guys from Montreal that he might not get the fanfare because he doesn't put up a ton of points anymore, but he had a bounce back season even offensively. But definitely a guy who's has helped had a big impact in Montreal. And we talked, Dan, about a little bit about the coaching matchup in that battle of Florida with John Cooper and Paul Maurice. But I love this coaching matchup as kind of the up and comers. We all know Washington's been pressing the right buttons all season. Spencer Carberry, Mitch Love, Kirk Mahler's kind of the old hand there, but I think all three have had a big hand in this season's success. They probably don't get enough credit for this resurgence, especially Carberry and Love, and like I said, even Kirk Mahler I think does helps those two young coaches along with the experience he has. And then Montreal, I mean, Marty St. Louis has done an amazing job with the Canadians. How can you not love this coaching matchup as a coach? And how do you read into how the coaching could play a factor in this series?
I think, I don't want to be biased because I'm a coach myself, but I think coaching has a lot to do with it. I think Marty's kind of unlocked the hey, we play hockey and we make plays and we have fun sort of style there in Montreal. And when you've got guys like Lane Hudson that can do those things, and Cole Caulfield and Slavkovsky and guys like that, I mean, yeah, let's make plays and have fun. But here's the thing, tightens up in the playoffs. And now you've got Carberry, who has unlocked sort of that fun piece again for a lot of the Capital guys, but then you've got two guys behind him in Mitch Love and Kirk Muller that are very, very structured, very, very detail-oriented guys. And that's why I think that staff has done such a good job with that team.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll maybe stick with you, Dan, as we get into the X factors here. But, can Ovi keep scoring in the playoffs? Can Tom Wilson keep scoring in the playoffs? Is Tom Wilson going to be a menace and imposing presence? You look at Montreal, you got, little Lane Hudson, little Cole Caulfield. Tom Wilson's going to be trying to run around a bit out there. Do you think those guys are going to be big factors? Ryan Leonard, as another college guy that's come out and had such a big impact for the U.S. at the World Juniors. His potential impact versus Ivan Demidov's potential impact as kind of the two new kids on the block, Leonard and Demidov. We mentioned Hudson. I mean, he's going to win the Calder Trophy. I think that it was close coming down the stretch with Dustin Wolf, but Lane Hudson got his team in the playoffs, tied Larry Murphy's all-time record for rookie assists by a rookie defenseman in Game 82 to make sure Montreal made it. Caulfield's lighting the lamp in the regular season. Can he keep it going? Juraj Slavkovsky, a player you're very familiar with. A lot of attention's on Demidov right now, but Slavkovsky's been great since the Four Nations. Can he step up? Kind of like I said, amid all the hype around Demidov, is Slavkovsky the one to watch? Mentioned the Dubois versus Line, the kind of how ironic they're facing off in this series. And Maddie touched on the goaltending between Thompson and Montembeault. Obviously, some felt Thompson was snubbed from the Four Nations, and there was some backstory there with Aiden Hill and the Vegas fallout. But now Logan Thompson is here in this series, and Montembeault was obviously rostered ahead of Thompson as Canada's third goalie behind Binnington and Hill. But all these X factors in this series, there's a lot of storylines to choose from. What stands out to you from that list?
Probably the biggest thing for me is gonna be that Thompson Montembeault thing, and I really believe Washington's gonna have the edge. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Monty fan. I think he's gonna be a guy. But Logan Thompson's been through the playoffs before. He's been in these big game moments. Even if he's not on the ice, he's felt that anxiety. He's felt that stress. He's felt what those locker rooms are like. So I think that's going to be kind of the thing that helps Washington through. The fact that we're asking if the greatest goal scorer of all time can keep scoring is a little asinine, but I understand again that the playoffs are the playoffs, and Ovi's had his issues before. But I think now Ovi's won his cup. He's breaking records and he's having fun. And no different than what I told these kids behind me when we were going through the playoffs. Team that's having the most fun is gonna win, guys. Like at the end of the day, it's just hockey. And I just think that there is that fun vibe right now around the Capitals.
For sure, for sure. And maybe let's just go ahead and give us your prediction then, since you're kind of leading us down that path. How do you see this series playing out?
Bands will make a dance in about 5.
Caps in 5. There you go. Maddie, what about you? Montreal went on a heck of a run to make the playoffs. You mentioned Sam Montembeault is one of the hottest goaltenders since the Four Nations. Thompson, not as much since that time. You talked about the goaltending. You look at some of these players in this series, that list I rattled off. What stands out to you, and what's your prediction? Who's winning and how many games?
Yeah, like he's Ovi's not afraid to throw his weight around. Tom Wilson's not afraid to crash and bang. Like, can Montreal stand up to the pressure and keep that war of attrition going? Or can, like Samuel Montembeault, be the that he's been? He's hot right now. I mean, you've heard the expression before. Teams who have run into a hot goalie. But on the other side, Logan Thompson has been there before. There's going to be a little pressure on Montembeault, especially at home, with the passion of the Montreal Canadiens fan base. Of course, Ovi can keep scoring. We've all seen it. But Dylan Strome, Tom Wilson, the depth pieces of the Capitals need to stand up. I think Montreal can play fast, but if they get caught where they're gonna get hit, then they're gonna be done. The Montreal's too small.
So you're taking the Capitals, and how many?
I'm taking the Caps in 6.
Okay, so we got Caps in 5s and Caps in 6. I think Montreal's going to put up a better fight. I think it's going to be. I think they're going to surprise some people. I think I'm kind of buying the Demidov hype. I think him. I think Laine. I think even Little Hudson. I think if Montreal wins game 1 or steals one of the first 2 in Washington, I think we're going to be in for a long series. I also believe that on paper the Caps are just a better overall team, more experience. Still have guys like Ovechkin and John Carlson and some of those guys that have been around. Even a guy like Lars Eller's been through a lot of playoff wars in his day. He started his career in Montreal, so a bit of a homecoming for him. I think Washington's just too experienced. Even though the guys that were big part of that Stanley Cup for Washington, the Nicholas Backstrom, the TJ Oshie, a lot of those guys are now we're talking about Connor McMichael and Dylan Strome, like you said, is some of the names and faces have changed, but I think Ovi is going to lead Washington, and I don't think even if Washington won the President's Trophy over Winnipeg, I think Washington was getting out of the first round. I have the Capitals in 7 though, so Dan in 5, Maddie in 6. I'm going Washington in 7. I think Montreal's going to make some noise here, and I think Montreal's a dangerous team going forward. But I can't deny Ovi at least a second round appearance in this year's playoffs and potentially a deep run, because I look at the other Metro Division matchup. We said the Dallas Colorado series was maybe the most anticipated matchup, or the Battle of Florida or the best matchup. We talked about all these series that were the most intriguing, most enticing. Now I think we got maybe or arguably the least anticipated matchup of the first round to close it out with the Carolina Hurricanes against the New Jersey Devils. They are division rivals, but hardly any hype here. No different than Vegas and Minnesota. I'm not feeling it. Maybe it's us up here north of the border, but to me, this matchup lost a lot of luster without Jack Hughes. New Jersey's first overall pick, leading scorer. He's ruled out for the playoffs. That's a devastating loss for the Devils. They still have guys like Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt and Timo Meier who can, put the puck in the net. Dougie Hamilton is back. He's playing the regular season finale, but how healthy is he? What's his impact going to be? The Devils on defense, they could go with the youth movement. The future might be now if Luke Hughes, crazy that Luke Hughes is the only Hughes brother in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. Obviously, Jack's injured, not playing for the Devils, and Quinn Hughes, the oldest brother, is missed the playoffs of the Vancouver Canucks. As we all know, he's the captain here in British Columbia. But Luke Hughes will fly the flag for the Hughes family. Simon Nemitz, I think he's been up and down this year, but he's up at the moment. I think this could be, he's had some complaints about playing time and stuff under Sheldon Keefe. I think maybe he gets a little bit of a coming out party here. And even Seamus Casey, I think, could potentially have an impact. But you look at the Hurricanes on defense, I just think they're way stronger on the back end. I think they're healthier. And I think Carolina has to be the heavy favorite here, especially you got Aho, Jordan Staal, you got Slavin, you got Burns. That core group is battle-tested from deep runs in the Rod Brindamore era. 2 trips to the conference finals. Carolina has advanced from the first round in each of the past 4 years, although they've had 3 exits in the second round. So, Dan, do you think Carolina, I know this is a team you follow quite closely, are they destined for a repeat result, whether it's a first or second round exit, or can either of these teams surprise us and make the conference final and get by Washington in the second round as well? Or are we talking about the Devils and Hurricanes being afterthoughts in the East this year?
Without giving away too much of some of the things that I've got predicted, I do think Carolina is going to get out of this series. They're just too good for New Jersey with all the injuries. I think the goaltending is, I don't want to call it a wash. I do think Carolina has better goaltending if they stay healthy. And yeah, I just don't like, again, I don't want to jump too far ahead and skip a bunch of the stuff you brought up, Larry, but I think this is Carolina at 5, man, and it's not going to be close.
Okay, no, that's good. You're coming out swinging with the prediction right off the bat. I like that. And Maddie, I'm going to turn it over to you. You can touch on some of the X factors. Maybe it is the goaltending. Jacob Markstrom, can he steal a game or two, or even the series for New Jersey? And who's even starting for Carolina? Is it Freddie Anderson or Peter Kochetkov? They've kind of shared the net down the stretch. I believe I seen Freddie Anderson got lit up in their regular season finale. I assume they go back to him, but that's a big decision for Rod Brindamore. You got Taylor Hall here, guys, against his former team. Some people might not remember, he won the Hart Trophy with New Jersey. Now he's with Carolina. I think, Logan Stankoven arguably fitting in better with the Hurricanes than Mikko Rantanen was. I think Stankoven's, with a guy like Seth Jarvis and Stankoven, I just think there are some vibes starting to develop. Hall's fitting good there as another play or a deadline acquisition. So I think the Hurricanes are coming together nicely. We talked about Luke Hughes and his potential impact. And if you want to talk about 2 young D for this series, you got Luke Hughes, obviously, who he's way more experienced than Alexander Nikishin. But if you haven't heard that name before, you're listening to the podcast and you don't know who Alexander Nikishin is, he's probably going to debut in this series. Signed out of the KHL. I believe he was the captain for St. Petersburg, but he's been one of the higher scoring defensemen in the KHL in recent years. But he's an all-around guy. He's a big body, punishing hitter. Kind of like almost like if you follow the Detroit Red Wings, I think he's kind of got the Moritz Seider vibes. Dan might be able to give a different comparison, but definitely Nikishin. And again, Carolina's already 6 deep on defense, so who's coming out of that lineup to make room for him? Is it a guy like Jalen Chatfield or Sean Walker? Like they're deep. Their 5-6 guys are good. So Nikishin's gonna have to play his way in there. But Maddie, do you think Carolina's strength on D, or the fact they're healthier and the fact Jack Hughes is out, or the goaltending matchup? Where do you want to go? Dan thinks that Carolina's gonna steamroll the Devils. He's got Hurricanes in 5. What do you got?
Can we see a rematch of the 2006 Stanley Cup Finals between Edmonton and Carolina? Or can Jacob Markstrom steal 3 games for the Devils? Because otherwise, I think Carolina wins this in 4.
Oh, our first sweep prediction. There you go, Maddie. I was going to say this is the last series. We went through all 8 series, all 8 matchups, and we've had no. I correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I don't think I think that's the first sweep we've had so far. Maddie taking Carolina in 4, so I think we're all kind of on the same page here. I got Carolina in 5. I also think that if Jack Hughes was in this series, I think this series could go to 7, and maybe even he tilts it a little bit in favor of New Jersey, or if we knew Dougie Hamilton was for sure 100%, maybe that's a factor. But on paper, and again, Sheldon Keefe coming over from Toronto, and all the lack of playoff success from the Leafs, even though he's done a good job with the Devils, I think Rod Brind'Amour, he can flip the switch for playoff hockey. I think Sebastian Aho, he's not the biggest guy, and Jordan Stahl's still the captain and the leader, but I think Aho can really play some playoff hockey as well. I think he's good, and I'm interested to see Alexander Nikishin, but I don't even know if we'll see him in this series. But I have Carolina in 5. I agree with Dan on this one, and we're all in favor of the Hurricanes, with Maddie taking the first sweep of the podcast. So thanks, Maddie. We needed that. We needed at least one sweep in the first round. And I guess from there, guys, we got about 15 minutes left, so we're just gonna rattle off our conference finalists, our cup finalists, our cup champion, and the Conn Smythe. So we got some more predictions as the deeper part of the playoffs. You can kind of give a little analysis if you want, or you could just shoot us your prediction. But we'll start with Dan. Let's do your conference finalists for the Western Conference. Who's who's coming out of the Pacific and the Central divisions?
Oilers versus Jets.
Oilers Jets, all Canadian matchup. We got the Battle of Ontario in the first round, and Dan's got in the third round Edmonton versus Winnipeg. That would be fun. What about you, Maddie? Your Western Conference final.
I see Oilers in Colorado.
Okay, Oilers Avs. We saw that the year that Colorado won the Cup. That was the conference final. And Maddie, I'm with you. I got Edmonton, Colorado as my Western Conference final as well. Both those teams, believe it or not, are number 3 or third seeds in their division, starting on the road in the first round. But I agree. I think Edmonton, Colorado are the 2 strongest teams, deepest teams on paper in the West. I think we're going to see Colorado, Edmonton, but I agree with Dan. I mean, how can you go against the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets as far as potential for an all-Canadian Winnipeg Edmonton conference final in the West? What about the East, Dan? Who do you got there over in the Eastern Conference for your final 4?
I got Lightning, Canes, and here's why. The Canes X Factor and the New York Rangers will not meet them in the second round, because that's anytime they met the Rangers in the second round, they've lost, and that kind of that Achilles heel is out of the Canes' way.
And sorry, you have Carolina
Lightning.
and Tampa, right? Tampa.
Lightning Canes. Lightning Canes.
Okay. And Maddie, what about you? Who's your Eastern Conference final?
Lightning Toronto.
Oh, you can't do that one. They'd meet in the second round.
Yeah.
So you have Tampa, Toronto in the second round, and then you also have Washington and Carolina. So who's coming out of Washington, Carolina, and who's coming out of Tampa and Toronto? Lots to debate there. It's quite the matchups,
yeah.
but
I think Tampa and Carolina, Taylor Hall is going to be an X factor in this one.
Yeah, you think Taylor Hall could have a big impact for Carolina? So you guys agree? You guys both have Tampa, Carolina as the Eastern Conference final. So I'll throw a curveball here. I have the in the West I went with the 2 number 3 seeds, or both third seeds, Colorado, Edmonton. In the East, I'm going with the top seeds. I got Washington versus Toronto as my Eastern Conference final. Both the 1 seeds in the Atlantic and the Metro make it through with Washington, Toronto. So that's how I see it there. So
digging deep, eh, Fish? Digging deep.
Yeah. I'm all about the upsets in the East. But yeah, with the Cup finalists, okay, so we know our Final Fours. We've all covered those off. So Dan, who's going to be playing for the Cup? Who's your Cup finalists?
'06 rematch. Oil Canes.
You're going Carolina, Edmonton. Awesome. I know Dan. I know Maddie. Maddie made mention of that earlier. But Maddie, what about you? What's your Cup final?
I'm throwing a curveball on this one too. Oilers, Maple Leafs.
Oh, you're taking the Leafs there. Okay. But you had Tampa beating the Leafs in the second round. You're calling an audible, and then Toronto's coming through.
Yeah, I think. Sorry. Yeah, I think Toronto's gonna come through.
Okay, well, smart minds think alike, Maddie. I got the All Canadian Cup final. I have Toronto versus Edmonton as well. I think that would be amazing, especially with this new TV deal for Canada coming through, the record breaker for Rogers. I think everybody in Canada would be pumped to see a Toronto Edmonton final. That's what I have. Dan has the rematch. We all have the Oilers. I'm sure there's some eye rolls going on right now amongst the viewers and the listeners, especially the Flames and Canucks fans, our buddies. That all three of us would ironically and magically pick Edmonton to make it back to the final. But in our defense, Edmonton went to Game 7 of the final last year, came up one goal short of hoisting the cup. So I don't think it's a total homer.
I honestly think Ekholm comes back for round 2 and he's healthy, and that's kind of the Oilers' X factor. Like if Ekholm doesn't come back, then yeah, my whole entire predictions are busted because they're not going to win a second round without him.
Yeah, I definitely don't think they're getting past. I look at my Western Conference final, Colorado, Edmonton, no Ekholm. I don't think you're stopping Colorado, especially they're going to be attacking in waves. So I do think Ekholm has to play.
I'm hoping and praying Ekholm is back, and so
yeah, for that Vegas Edmonton matchup, that would be huge.
Well, I got Edmonton playing mini.
So. Oh yeah, you have mini, right? So that's maybe, I don't want to say an easier second round, but yeah, me and Maddie are expecting the Edmonton Vegas, but you're right. Yeah, you have Edmonton mini, so that would be.
I took mini too, actually.
Yeah, right. I'm the only one that took Vegas. You both went wild. You both have that upset, so that's interesting. Yeah, my apologies, Maddie. I forgot that you both took the upset there. But so now we got our Cup finalists. Maddie, let's go to you. You got the All Canadian final, same as me, Toronto and Edmonton. Who's your Cup winner and how many games?
Fasten your seatbelts. This could be a wild ride. This first round is going to be absolutely insane. But I say Oilers in 6.
Oilers in 6. Okay, and that would be a home game. Toronto would have home ice in a Toronto-Edmonton final. Dan, I'll let you weigh in before I follow up on Maddie with the Toronto-Edmonton final. But you got the rematch from 06. We all know Carolina broke the hearts of the Oilers. Carolina in 7 and 06. What do you got for that was a hot minute ago. We're in 2025 now, but what do you got for the long-awaited rematch, Carolina-Edmonton? Who's your Cup winner and how many games?
19 years later, the Oilers get it done. They get redemption. We get it in 6 games.
Okay, so yeah, even though you got different opponents, you both got Edmonton in 6. I love this potential for this all-Canadian final. I got Edmonton in 7, and I'll kick off the Conn Smythe. Again, I can hear the laughs and the eye rolls from here, but let's remind everybody, Edmonton was 1 goal away from winning the Stanley Cup last year. McDavid and Draisaitl are going to be more determined than ever to avenge that, and they won't have to go through Matthew Tkachuk by the sounds of it, or by the way we're talking. They won't be seeing him again in the final or at all in these playoffs potentially. So I have Edmonton in 7. I'll kick off the Conn Smythe conversation. Playoff MVP is none other than Connor McDavid. Obviously scored I'll call it the golden goal, but the Four Nations overtime goal. I have him scoring the Cup-winning goal in Game 7 in his hometown of Toronto and promptly signing an 8-year extension in Edmonton, much to the chagrin of Leafs fans and to the relief of Oilers fans. So we can plan the parade in the City of Champions. And like I said, this is as much as people might be thinking, oh, wow, we got 3 Oilers bandwagoners here all picking Edmonton to win the Cup. I don't think that's a real homer pick considering they came within a goal of winning the cup last year and are a better team on paper this season, providing they stay healthy now. And as Dan said, I made it here in my notes as well. Maybe even getting Ekholm back during this playoff run. I think that's a key factor for Edmonton. But Conn Smythe, are we going to have a clean sweep of McDavid winning the Conn Smythe since we have Edmonton, all three of us Edmonton winning the cup? Or who's your Conn Smythe winner, Maddie?
I'm throwing a curveball. Stuart Skinner gets it done.
Attaboy, that's right. He's going to have to be one of the best players if they're going to win the cup. So yeah, you think Stu silences all his doubters and haters, and Stuart Skinner ends up with the Conn Smythe trophy.
Yeah, he's gonna have him, McDavid, Draisaitl are gonna have a bad taste in their mouths from last year.
Right on. I like that pick. And a bit of a curveball. Dan, are you going to give us a third different name as a Conn Smythe guy? We got McDavid, Skinner, or where are you going with this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going super off the Richter scale with it, but I think Draisaitl just continues his regular season sort of dominance, and the reality is he has to in order for the Edmonton to even get out of round one anyway. So I think I'm going to go Draisaitl, Conn Smythe. Again, Ekholm, please get healthy so none of us look stupid.
I love that. No, awesome stuff, guys. We've made our predictions, and now we get to watch what promises to be a highly entertaining first round. Like I said, here's open for a little chaos or a lot of chaos. So many intriguing matchups. Any final thoughts, Dan, for you, or any shout outs, anything you want to plug or promote this time around? Obviously, again, congratulations to your boys, the U14 Titans out of don't get me wrong, I believe still out of Spruce Grove, but as champions. But anything else you want to promote or plug?
No, man, just thanks for having me on again. Like, it's a pleasure to hop on this remotely with you guys and talk hockey. We got to hang out a little bit when I came home for spring break, Larry. Maddie, sorry I missed you, bud, but I'll make sure to get home this summer and buy you a beer. So.
And Maddie, what about you? Final thoughts, shout outs, anything that comes to mind, either about the playoffs or maybe you got a good joke for us? I know Marshall's not here. He's doing stand up here in a week or two. You want to one up him and get a head start on the jokes. I know we've already talked about the parlays becoming parfaits and that, but what do you got for us today?
Yeah. Buckle up, because I feel like I'm on a Formula One racetrack with this first round of the playoffs. Like, there's going to be so many twists and turns that, wow, like, so sad that a lot of good teams are going to be out in this first round.
Yeah. And what about, obviously, I know it breaks your heart to not see the Flames and the Canucks make the playoffs. You want to take any last jabs at the Flames and Canucks? I seen some guys were warming up the hockey fights at the golf course here in Kelowna. Maybe that'll be the Flames and Canucks this weekend. They might be scrapping it out on the golf courses in Kelowna.
What's the difference between the Canucks and the Flames?
I don't know. Does Dan know?
I don't know, man.
They both look good before they hit the ice and sink.
Oh, they're bringing out the Titanic joke.
I love it. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a classic.
Yeah, awesome.
We got to be careful, though. We don't want bad karma around the Oilers. I'm going to leave those teams alone and wish them well. And we'll see them next year.
For sure. And like I said, we missed having Marshall here, guys. He's going to be doing stand-up at O'Flanagan's in Kelowna on May 6th. It's a Tuesday. I know that's what Marshall will be plugging. So if you're in town, definitely, if you're local, get out there and support Marshall. And Marshall's been busy keeping us out of trouble at Hello Darlin', Kelowna's hottest new country bar. And again, if you're here and you haven't been there, it's a fun speakeasy. You got to check it out. And shout out to the bar staff at Hello Darlin' for always taking care of us. Led by Marshall, he's making sure we're getting in and behaving ourselves. So I'm sure we'll see more of Marshall throughout these playoffs. possibly as early as this first round between Edmonton and Los Angeles. But thanks again, guys, for joining me. Enjoy all the playoff action to yourselves and to all our listeners. And stay tuned for the next episode of the Fishbowl Hockey Podcast.